Let's do a tour of my man cave, my setup, my gaming room. So you walk in, and first thing you do, turn the lights on. They're already on. Sadly, a few of my lights are actually dying, but I suppose they're not exactly important. Usually the first thing people notice when they walk in is my TV, because it's pretty big. I don't think the camera does it justice. We've all said that one before, right? My TV is an LG 77-inch OLED C2. It always astounds me just how thin it is from the side. We've all said that before as well, right? It is by far the biggest TV that I've ever had, and I don't sit very far from it, so that's where I typically sit while I'm playing, and it's perfect. I suppose for a size reference, you've got the PlayStation 5 under there. Let's go through each of the consoles that we have in the unit, shall we? So, the unit is from IKEA, I do believe. We've got a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 5. Then over here we've got a Switch, a Series X, an Xbox 360, and a handheld Switch. And then up there you might be able to see something else. So if we just walk on over, we've got the PlayStation 2 behind here along with all my different HDMI devices, which I'll explain in a moment. Sometimes people tell me that I need to cable manage better, but let me show you why I don't believe that's true. If I just take a seat over here at the angle that I would typically play at, and look how big the TV looks by the way, if I just push those cables at the bottom a little bit further under, which I do need to do because I was messing around with it the other day, that's why they're out, you can't really see any cable. And every single one of those consoles has got a HDMI cable coming out the back of it and a power cable, and they're all plugged in all at once, so they're all usable. And the reason that they're all usable is because of the devices that they're plugged into. So, this one right here is my HDMI switch. As you can see, it's 8K HDMI 2.1. Reason for that is that if you want to get the best output of the consoles and the things that you use, every component of your chain has also got to be capable of what the console is capable of, otherwise it doesn't work. So it isn't just your TV and the console you have to consider, it's the HDMI cables themselves, it's the HDMI splitters that you use, it's everything. So you'll see these HDMI cables with the blue tabs coming out of the top. Those are 8K one-way powered HDMI cables. So each of the consoles feeds into the back of that, but it doesn't go straight to the TV. Oh no, if you look along my skirting board, I've got some cable trunking. And if we just follow that, you'll see that under here, if I just squat down, we have an Elgato HD60. So, the HDMI, all the consoles go to a HDMI switch, which then leads to my Elgato, and then it gets sent back through the cable trunking to the TV. Now, given that this room is pretty big, and the cables are neatly tucked along the side, you understand that the cable has to be massive, which is why it has to be powered in one way. But then if we come back behind here, we have a HDMI splitter as well. The reason that I have a HDMI splitter is so that I can send the outputs of all of the devices to either that TV over there, which is a Samsung curved 4K 40-inch. That's if I'm sat on the desk facing that way. Or the big TV if I'm facing this way. Effectively, my setup is mirrored so that whether I'm facing that way or that way, it doesn't matter. Another handy tool of the HDMI splitter, by the way, is that it strips the HDCP protection from the PlayStation 3 that stops it being able to be recorded. Another very helpful thing it does. Then this device here is called the RetroTink 5X, which is a HD upscaler for the PlayStation 2 and other older consoles. And if we just stand in the corner of the room that has the PlayStation 2 on, you can see my film collection, which is rather extensive, and the game collection over there, which sadly doesn't look quite as impressive, but is worth far, far more. My goal was effectively to own any TV show or film that ever really mattered, ever. I go to the cinema like once or twice a week, most weeks. Films are something that I care a lot about, especially older stuff. These bookshelves are Billy bookshelves, and they're pretty tall. I had to have extra shelves put in. And something else that I had to do, if I just move this across, is you can see at the back there that there's a plank of wood, and that's because all of the shelves are actually too deep to display everything at the front of the shelf. So I put in every single shelf a plank of wood that runs the length of it and just deep enough that every single DVD and every single game can be displayed front and center. Oh, and more gaming stuff while we're at it. So in these drawers here, I have got my VR and some spare controllers. There are controllers just sort of everywhere in this room. All of these things have got holes drilled through the back so that I can hide more cables and charging stations so that everything is always charged all at once. It's the same story over here with just more stuff. And then if we go over to the armory, as I call it, my pegboard with all my different spare controllers. The reality is that the majority of these controllers are actually just for show. They don't really get used because the controllers that do get used are in the drawers. And then if we just pan down, we've got my handhelds, so the Game Boy Advance SP, the limited edition Pokemon 2DS Flat, the original DS that's got the Game Boy cartridge on the bottom, and then the no, that's not a 3DS, it's a, what is it? It's a DSi XL, there you go. And then of course, to the right of me here is my game collection. I put some of the cooler stuff along the top because I just think it's interesting to look at. So it goes PlayStation 2 stuff, PlayStation 3 into PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 into PlayStation 5, and then Xbox stuff, and then more Xbox stuff along the bottom, but also the miscellaneous like Nintendo stuff that doesn't really have a home. Right now I'm stood over where the DVDs are again, so you can see the sofa. The sofa is a bed. I'll demo that shortly. And then when it comes to cable management, this is the bit that annoys me, but I think just due to my job, there's not a lot I can do about it, especially with the size of this room and the way that I've got this set up. But I have another monitor there, along with a single monopod tripod arm thing that's got my camera on, and then another one with the low profile arm from Elgato with the Yeti X on, so that it swings round, so that if I'm filming, I can just swing that through and be stood there or sat there playing and filming all at once. You'll also notice that I've got a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard so that I can use the PC when I'm not at the desk. Because again, in that cable trunking, there is a cable coming out the back of the PC all the way along into the back of the TV. Speaking of the PC, I don't game on it too much because I just like the experience of consoles and handheld and easy. But it's got a 3080 Ti in it, a Ryzen 7 3700X, and about 32 gigabytes of RAM. And I'm pretty sure I future-proofed it with like a 1000 watt power supply so that I can put something else in at some point should I wish to. Genuinely though, when I got that graphics card, the first thing that I played on it was Resident Evil 1 for the PlayStation 1. And then if we go back to more decoration stuff, we've obviously got the two Dragon Ball posters, so one over there, trying to make them equal distances from the window frame so that it is pleasing to the eye. The only blank wall that I've really got in this room now is above the desk, and I'm thinking that if I ever manage to get the YouTube account to hit 100,000 followers, or God forbid even 1 million, I can have the plaque above there. But I've also, in a few weeks, we've got some people coming to do some air conditioning, because obviously this room gets very hot, and summers in England are just getting worse every year in terms of how just some moist they are, and it's a problem. So getting some air conditioning, it's going to live at the top of that wall. It's going to look nice. And then to the left of this Goku poster, I have a display of just 9 games. What 9 games they are often rotate, but at the minute I've got the Haunting Ground and Obscure games, Silent Hill 2, 3 and 4, and Project Zero 1, 2 and 3, otherwise known as Fatal Frame. Being somebody that films a lot of videos for various different places, I'm also just inundated with camera supplies. So obviously they've got these 2 tripods here and just various different mounts for said tripods, and then cameras and microphones just everywhere. So I've got the DJI mics there, and obviously there's the DJI mic that I'm using right now. Got a DJI Osmo Pocket 3, another DJI mic. The camera that's on there is a Canon M50 with a Sigma something lens, I can't remember precisely, with a Rode Pro mic on the top. I tell you what, the cheapest but most long-lasting part of my setup is actually that ring light here. Just the ring light, not the tripod that it sat on. The ring light cost me like £10 4 years ago, and it still works to this day. I don't understand how. And then some of you may have noticed my framed Yu-Gi-Oh cards. These are not rare whatsoever. They are literally the cheapest versions that I could find that were still shiny, but they're cards that I cared about as a kid, and I wanted to frame them and put them on my wall because I thought that it would look cool, and I think it does. If we go back into the lighting of the room, I've got my spotlights. A few of them are dying. The one in that back corner is dying, the one central to the room is dying, and then that one center above the TV is also dying. They're supposed to last for years and years, but because this is my workspace, they are on like all day, every day, so they've not lasted as long as they should. But that was a huge upgrade to the room. This room was really, really dark before we got those. Oh, and I stumbled across more camera kit. So this is a DJI Osmo gimbal for a phone. I was using it for this video, but then I just decided to hold the phone because I feel like it's about as good. I effectively have everything DJI have made besides like the drones. So as well as a gaming room, this is obviously a bit of a cinema room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it into bed mode now and demonstrate that. Okay, so now I've got the TV in bed mode and the lights turned off, and obviously it's still daytime outside, so it's not dark in here. I've also got just an example of something on the TV to show you what the TV can do. Yeah, as you can see, it folds out into a double bed at perfect length in front of the TV. Basically designed the room to be as productive as I possibly could when it came to both gaming and watching content and creating content. To be real, it isn't too often that I use the bed in bed mode because it takes a little bit of time and you have to take off the bottoms of the stuff. But whenever I do, I'm like, this is comfortable, this is fun. Oh, and something else I don't think I've touched upon is the fact that that little monitor there and the big TV both mirror that big TV there and this little monitor here. So that, again, regardless of which way in my setup that I'm facing, I've got the dual monitor setup at any given time. Which theoretically could mean that if I wanted to extend rather than duplicate, I could have a 4-monitor setup. But yeah, that is the general gist of my setup tour. I tried to include everything that I think that I did that was kind of cool, that was any sort of relevance to making a good gaming room. There's not too much more that I want to do, really. There's like one more Billy, a half-size Billy that I want to get underneath the corner with the 9 displayed games so that I can future-proof myself a little bit more for getting more stuff, because I'm way out of space. There's obviously the air conditioning that's coming soon. I could do with replacing some of these bulbs that are dying. Like, this is with the lights off, by the way, and just the ring light. I think, comment down below, but I think this looks better than, hang on, than this. I don't know. I feel like it looks better with these lights off and just the direct light from the ring light. What do we think? I don't know. Anyway, if you guys made it this far into the video, I should have said this way earlier if I wanted it to actually be productive, but be sure to subscribe. And of course, like the video if you haven't already. But that is my dream setup tour that I've built.